issues this morning. But hello. All right, I want to do a quick tech check beyond that, what just happened, and make sure that everybody can hear me and that you can see me. Most important is the PowerPoint. Can you guys see the slides? If you can't see me, that's fine, but the slides are, you want to be able to see them. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, let me go ahead and then introduce myself and then go ahead and get us started. I know there's always going to be more people coming in, so I also try to wait a little bit to get as many people as possible. But anyone coming in, if you do have to leave early, please know that your Groupinar is going to be recorded and it's going to be emailed to you. You'll have access to it for 7 days, so it is okay if you have to go a little bit early. All right, so I am Joy Berkheimer. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist working out of my private practice in Boca Raton, Florida. So I work with individuals, I work with couples, but I work with people around their relationships more often than not. It really doesn't matter what you might be coming in for. There's always going to be something else around a relationship that's important to people. So what we're actually going to be talking about today is our self-esteem in our relationships, right? So understanding how to manage your view of self and how to continue to connect with other people. If you didn't see up top, just so you know, I don't do like a Q&A at the end. So if you do have questions throughout the group, please feel free, that are relevant to the group, please feel free to go ahead and pop those in and I will answer a couple per slide. And if there's questions I don't answer, you are always more than welcome to direct message me or email me and I will answer those questions next Tuesday when I do a live on Instagram. But on here, I will just keep to a couple of questions per slide. The Q&A mode is on. So if you have a question for me, and this is for anyone who hasn't been on before, you just go ahead and click the question mark and I know it's for me. If you have a response or feedback for anybody else that is completely acceptable, you just go ahead and respond to them. There's going to be like a chat bubble under their comment. You can respond directly to that person, okay? If you can't see me, it may be the way that you have your camera set up, or mine, you're on top of the slide. But again, okay, you guys, who else can't see the slides? Is this the thing that everyone is not able to see? See everything. Okay. It might be the device that you're on or the way that it's set up. So you have to like reconfigure the way that you may be logged in. Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk about 5 different keys that would be helpful in order for you to better manage and recognize your own sense of self. Where's the question for the presenter? Not just for the chat. What you just now did would be the question for me, right? So you would click on the question mark exactly like you did. So I pay attention to those questions, the ones that have question marks on them. Okay. So let's go ahead and jump into, I'm not sure where you guys can't see me. Some people can see me. I'm not sure how it is that you are logged into your program, but yeah, people can see me. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead. And again, seeing me is not the most important thing. You really want to be able to get the material from the PowerPoint. All right. So key number 1, be aware of the narrative that is feeding your self-esteem and your view of self. So what is a self-esteem? Self-esteem is the story that you are walking around the world with, right? It is the story that has your identity. So we pour into our story. There's different chapters of our story. There's an evolution of this character who is us, right? So a lot of our narrative comes from the beginning. Audio cracking, man. All right, guys, just give me a minute and let me see what I can do here. Log out. Here we go. Yes. Okay. What about now? Does that sound any better? Perfecto. I think I fixed it. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. All right. Because hearing me actually is important. All right. So our self-esteem, like I said, is a story of ourself, right? So different things are going to pour into how we develop our identity. And a lot of times what happens with our identity is it starts with our caregivers. It starts at a very young age, right? So if you're a part of a family, a lot of times your family members are giving you some sort of identity. You could be the smart one. You could be the fat one, you could be the pretty one, you could be the jock, you could be the one who likes to stay in their room all the time, you could be the gamer. But we take these things that our family, our close friends, maybe even our bullies, like people early on have given us, and we wear it like a badge of truth. Okay. So when we are just identifying with ourselves by what someone else gave us, a lot of times we can feel kind of confused walking around the world, maybe feeling like we are actually something else. When you start to feel what's called like a cognitive dissonance, right? There's a part of you that knows this story and a part of you that feels something different. This is where we come into problems around anxiety and depression. You're feeling kind of split, right? Works from two, low self-esteem, begin from childhood. Yep. So, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? So, if anyone knows this story, you know this is from the evil stepmother in Snow White. So I started watching the series, the Huntsman series with Snow White, the Huntsman and the Queen. And a few of the series got into a space where they actually talked about the background of the evil stepmother, of the Queen. And you guys know that she would look in this mirror and she would say, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? Because the most important thing for her life was to be the most beautiful woman in all the lands, right? So basically all the world. And it always came back to her that Snow White was the one that was more beautiful, and that when she turned a certain age, she was going to be more beautiful. There are articles and things about it that talked about the fact that this mirror that she was looking at was actually not a magic mirror, but that it was a piece of copper or gold. And when she was talking to this mirror, she would just basically talk back to herself. And she's the one who would tell herself that she was not the fairest of them all. She's the one that had it in her mind that she had this competition and that somebody else was going to be able to be more beautiful than her, take her throne, and basically take her power from her. Okay. We are oftentimes a reflection of relationships. So if you have relationships that have kind of poured into you and given you a certain identity, you will go really strong with that. So in one of the things that I read about her, it talks about this mirror, it talks about her, like basically her sense of low self-esteem and her sense of worth being completely connected to her beauty. So in one of the series, you have where the soldiers go to her village, and this is the evil queen, and this is, she's a little girl, maybe she's 11 years old, 11, 12 years old. They go to her village, they take her family, they beat and rape her family in front of her, they kill her family, and then they take her with them. So you're talking about a little girl on the road with soldiers. So they used her for whatever they wanted to use her for. In order for her to live, she had to be useful, right? And her usefulness came from her body. It came from her femininity, so to speak, right? However, she could serve these other people. So this is her a survival thing. And so she connected it to, I always have to have this beautiful thing. I have to be the most beautiful thing to be able to, you know, manipulate and to be able to survive my world. So this is why she has this whole adult story of taking over the king and killing him and having to be against someone, because she's so consumed. I have no value if my body doesn't look like this, or I'm not beautiful. Okay. So, what we need to do is tap into our authentic selves by slowing down and tuning to our own compass, not somebody else's compass, right? So, in terms of that, I utilize a lot of mindfulness with my clients. When we are in session, if I am using something for like a coaching session, right, I will start our coaching sessions or women's retreats or things like that that I do. We'll do a meditation. And this meditation will basically talk about what you're identifying as love, right? What does love smell like? What does it taste like? What does it feel like on your skin? What sound would you hear if it was love, right? For me, it was always my great grandmother's chocolate chip cookies made from scratch. Like that's how I identify love. But it's to kind of get you lined back up with identifying what these feelings are that are important and they're not misconstrued by other people. So after I have them do this, I will also have them do a letter. So you don't have to be spiritual necessarily to do this letter, but any of my clients who are spiritual, I'll have them channel a letter. They can channel this letter from their higher self. They can channel this letter from their highest power. It could be God, or it could be a mentor, somebody that you just look up to, that you respect, right? So they channel this letter and it's a love letter to them. So after kind of being in the space of what love is, right, they're able to have this higher power, higher self, mentor, whatever, write a love letter to them. And this doesn't mean that this person or being doesn't see you for all that you are. They can see you for all you are. They can see all the lovely things, and they can still accept you for who you are, right? So it creates kind of a foundation for everybody as to, this is an identity that I can gel with, and I want to grow from this spot, not from maybe the spot that was a painful spot. Okay? So that is key number 1. Just looking really quick if I missed any questions. It looks like I did. Okay. And you can Google it. I did explain what it was. That was funny. Okay. Can self-identity change throughout life drastically? Example, when you are surrounded by toxic people? Yes. Yes, it can. So being around toxic people can be very traumatic, right? Especially if it's something that you are inundated with, in and out. You don't have any other messages coming in. You don't have any other energy around you, just a toxic energy. And when somebody repeats something to you, it's kind of like a mind control can happen for a very long period of time, where you start to believe these things about yourself. So if there's ever been like a group of people who were marginalized, this could be Native Americans, this could be any group of people that are marginalized, right? After a while, they can actually start to believe these negative things about themselves. And then acting out can happen. Revolting can happen. All types of things can happen. But yes, it can kind of change your identity, because a lot of times we will move in that identity because we think that in order for us to be safe or survive, right? Even if it's not our very conscious thought, subconsciously, I need to get along. So they need me to be this way. So that's how I'm going to act, right? That's who I'm going to be. Okay. All right. So key number 2. What again we need to write on paper after meditation? You don't have to do this. I'm just saying any mindfulness practice that's going to help you re-identify with yourself would be helpful, of like restarting a narrative. So what I was saying is I have my clients write a letter that they kind of channel to themselves, and it's a love letter from some being that you respect, that can pretty much give you a pure love view of self to start from there. Okay. So key number 2. I do talk fast. That is the New Yorker in me. Again, this is going to be recorded. It's going to be sent to you. So if you want to pause it and slow down when you listen to it again, you can do that. Okay. So those who want to love you want to love you. Okay. So key number 2 is pretty much a reminder that if someone is trying to connect with you, they're trying to connect with the authentic self that you have. Okay. So to be authentic in relationships definitely requires commitment and courage. It's a little bit scary. We may have been put in situations where we were authentic and vulnerable with others, and maybe that was used against us. Maybe we feel like people will turn away from us. And that's not necessarily the truth. Not the right person. The person who's supposed to connect with you does not want to turn away from who you actually are. So what studies will show is that a person who wants to connect with you wants to know that it's okay for them to also be vulnerable around you, right? And so if they can see that you are kind of out there, that you're willing to share things with them, then they're more likely to feel comfortable doing the same thing. Now, when we go out with someone, we don't want to be the first date Jane all the time. Like every time you see me, I look exactly the way I did on the first date. I talk exactly the same way. I laugh at all your jokes. I can be somebody who is real. If you guys have ever told somebody a secret, right? What usually happens when you tell a secret or someone's trying to tell you a secret? We generally will lean in. We're like, what? What'd you say? I want to hear. I want to know what the secret is, right? People lean into that. They want to connect with that vulnerable side of you, right? Imperfect people want to also be with imperfect people. We don't want to have the stress of being with this perfect person all the time and feeling like I'm not good enough, right? So people really do connect strongly to somebody who allows them to see something. You're basically saying that you trust me with this, and maybe you don't trust the rest of the world with it, and it makes me feel good that I am a person that you trust. Okay, let's see. I've been dating and trying to find the balance between being understanding and expressing boundaries, like when someone changes plans or bails last minute. I've been doing better. Okay, that wasn't a question. Okay. All right. So guys, just make sure if it's not a question, please don't put the question mark so I don't read it as a question. What do you do when someone uses your vulnerability against you? So I mean, I don't have anything specific. I feel like you probably know. Sometimes I'll get the questions, and I sometimes I feel like they need to be expanded if you're asking me something super specific. I don't know. What do you do? What did you do if someone used your vulnerability against you? What did you do? You know, typically you're going to protect yourself from that. That could be walk away. That could be setting boundaries. I don't know the specific situation, so I'm not certain really exactly how to answer the question, but I feel like we mostly know. If you know that your vulnerability was used against you, you probably knew that you had to do something different to protect yourself. Okay. Such a hook. Let's see. How do you continue to commit to being vulnerable while dating when we live in such a hookup or having tons of options culture? You have to be discerning about how you're vulnerable and who you're vulnerable with. So there's a level of vulnerability that allows somebody to get to know you, right? So I wouldn't have a conversation with the mailman that I may have with the person I'm going on a first date with, but it still doesn't mean I'm going to tell the first date all the things, right? You have to be the one who is discerning about how you're going to connect. If you guys walk around with the idea that everybody wants to just hook up, everybody has options and they're just going to go, right? Sometimes that'll either move you to give them too much because you're thinking, well, if I pour everything at them, then they'll want to stay. I'll hook them in, right? Or if I say nothing at all, I'll be protected because I didn't risk anything because they're going to leave anyway. If you live in that headspace, you won't really get further than where you are, okay? So you have to be the one who's discerning in terms of you getting to know someone and their trustworthiness and their deservedness of your information. So this is a job on you in terms of being hyper vigilant of what is protective for your healing and your growth and your dating journey, because everyone's dating journey is completely different. Can your vulnerability be an excuse to escalate anger? I guess it is an excuse. It's not a reason, right? An excuse is kind of like a cop out when we say, yeah. So it is something that could trigger somebody to present as angry. It could trigger somebody if they feel like they've been too vulnerable, if they're afraid of themselves or they're afraid what the other person is going to do. A person could react and act out in a way with anger, or they can completely withdraw and shut down. Okay. How as a man do I express my feelings to a woman? Honestly. That's my final answer. Honestly. Let's see. And let me grab one more. What if I'm scared to get into a relationship in the first place, just afraid and rather remain single forever, but deep down want to love? What's the actual question? What if I'm scared to do this, but I want to do this? I can't answer that question for you. It's not a real question. I need more when you guys ask that. Like, are you saying, should I do this? Like, option A through D. I could do something better with that. When you guys say, like, this is literally what I hear when you guys say this to me. What if I want to stand up, but I'm tired? I don't know how to answer the question. I don't know. You either stand up or you don't stand up. You know what I mean? All right. So let me get to the next key and then I'll come back to some of the other questions. And again, if I'm missing questions, please either email me. If you scroll to the very top, well, I'll just drop it in again. You can either email me or you could direct message me so that I can answer these questions at a different time. But I will answer your questions for sure. I'm just going to drop it in real quick. Because you guys have a lot of good questions too. So don't make assumptions. All right. So not making assumptions, meaning do not assume that everybody in your life that's showing up now is going to show up exactly the way that everyone showed up before, right? Also, don't make assumptions that everybody's going to see you the way that you used to see yourself. So say you had this self-esteem or this image, this view of self that was not positive. You felt like you weren't enough. You felt like nobody really could identify the value in you. And you continue to believe these things because of your early story. But say we're in this process of healing. If you're in the process of healing and you see yourself differently, sometimes we will still get stuck in the assumptions that somebody else is going to see the old stuff. I had a client who was dating a guy for about 3-4 years. And in that process, she found out that he cheated on her. He got somebody pregnant. She was devastated, right? She was absolutely devastated. She never thought it would happen. If it doesn't happen to you, you're usually in that mindset, this will never happen to me, until it happens. And then it shifts your whole paradigm for you. But so it happened to her, and we're working a lot on kind of healing through that and growing through that. She was out of the relationship. She's ready to date. But what she kept kind of getting stuck in the loop of is that everybody that I date, they will know that I am a person that you should cheat on, right? I've been cheated on before. I am now damaged goods, and everybody will recognize me as that, and they will also cheat on me. So therefore, I don't want to date at all. So she kind of completely reverted back with that fear of what was going to happen if she stepped back into the world, right? So that is definitely a classic way of having an assumption. Let's see. What are ways to better communicate when a partner still doesn't make time for me because he's busy, but it happens over and over again? What else can I do? So that's the other thing I want to make sure I'm asking guys is that the questions are relevant to what we're talking about. And I'm trying to put this together with like self-esteem and view of self and connecting in relationships. But, what else can you do? If it happens over and over, what else can you do? I don't know if you have communicated. I don't know what you communicated, right, to your partner already. If your partner is saying that they're busy and you're telling them that you have a high need for a certain level of communication and they're not communicating with you the way that you would like, you have to make a decision about what your boundaries are around that. You have to make a decision about what is acceptable to you. If it's okay for a person to be with you and only communicate with you on their schedule and not consider yours. So you kind of have to identify what are the main points in a healthy relationship that you have, because everyone's idea of a healthy relationship is different. There's basic things like respect, support, acceptance, gratitude, love, but you have to decide what are the things that are like deal breakers and not. Some people can have long distance relationships. Some people are like, absolutely not. Some people you can have friends with somebody who's the opposite sex. Some relationships you can't, right? So this is not something that anybody really should be telling you the answer to. What you want to do is get very clear on what you identify as a relationship that works for you. What we don't want to do, guys, is when you do have an idea of what works for you, do not betray yourself and fall into the ideals of somebody else's relationship type. I don't mean your partner, like your friends, someone else telling you, girl, this is how it's supposed to be. And oh, she should never do that to you, right? You need to decide what are the values that you have around a healthy relationship. And if you're not firm in that, other people can very easily tell you things and you'll move with that. Okay? All right. Like this question expanded on also. How do you move past those assumptions about being damaged goods? This is a tricky one. Obviously, therapy is going to work, but I'm going to tell you, when I was working with her, it was a lot. It was really a lot. There was always a growth, but it would come in very small increments. So you have to be ready to do a lot of digging. You have to be ready to see, what if this thing happened, this relationship, right? And maybe it's actually connected to something else that happened that's really big that you have not processed. Maybe it's connected to a belief you already had about yourself, and that was just evidence of that belief you had about yourself. So you and your therapist pretty much want to combat any stories that ever told you that you were damaged, that you were not good enough, so that you can start to erode those things and create your own new story about yourself, right? So your therapist can give you some more tools around identifying self, and kind of like the tool that I did in the beginning. And actually that client that I'm talking about, I did that with her. And that was a huge thing, the meditation and the letter, because it was the first time that she allowed herself to see herself through the eyes of something that she really respected, right? For her, it happened to be God, right? So she respected what she felt that she was channeling through, which was pure love. And she wasn't reliant upon a relationship to give her her identity, right? So sometimes you have to look at what's your what's your source of identity? And if it's a source that should not be giving you information about yourself, you need to change the source. Okay? What if I learn to be more vulnerable and honest with my partner rather with myself? I'm not really sure what that means. When you say, what if I learn to be more vulnerable and honest with my partner rather? Yeah, I'm not sure what the actual question is with that. So limiting beliefs that can come from assumptions. So these are two common limiting beliefs that we have. Anyone I'm with will only love or appreciate me based on what I do. So I need to do more, right, to be enough. So you feel like your value is only around your behaviors, what you're able to give somebody, how you're able to show up, how you're able to make their lives comfortable. That's it. So that if you're not in the middle of basically people pleasing, then you're not being good, right? And then you're at risk of being alone for the rest of your life. I'm not enough or worthy of the love that I desire. So since I believe this, I know that they can see this in me as well, right? So I already know that I'm no good, and I get that you're no good or you're not going to treat me any good. So this is what will happen with this one. Either one, you will feel like I don't deserve anything good, but I don't want to go through that pain, so I'll be by myself, or you will settle for someone who does not treat you well because you believe that you deserve that anyway. Okay? So let me scroll back up and see. Okay, what can I do to help create a space for my partner who was told not to be vulnerable his whole life to feel like they can be vulnerable, open, and honest with me? Yeah, that's a great question. So when it comes to us like trying to change other people's fears, their assumptions, and things like that, the best medicine, so to speak, for that is you doing it. You showing them that it is possible, you showing them that you are able to move past any fear that or anxiety that you might have about being vulnerable. So when you share with your partner or you talk to your partner about how close you are with your friends, right? When they see that you're capable of doing these things and that people haven't betrayed you, and they see that you have an essence of being happy, you feel good when you're able to lay that down. Even if you say, I loved going to see my therapist and I was able to talk about all these things and I loved it. I get so many clients being like, well, my boyfriend is seeing a therapist and he loved it, so I wanted to try it, right? So we really learn a lot from watching the people that we care about, okay? Let's see. There was a lot of abuse in my home growing up, and I was never allowed to make decisions for myself and criticized for any choices I did make. As a result, I have a lot of issues making decisions for myself. Let me scroll back up. It's like I don't have the trust in myself to make the right choice. Got it. Okay. It causes a lot of issues to the point that even though I'm a successful business person, even at home, I ask my partner if I can buy cereal at the grocery store. How do I repair my self-esteem to become better at this? So this is not necessarily, so self-esteem is view of self. Do you feel like you don't make, you're not supposed to make choices because you make bad choices? Or is this really more a relationship dynamic that you learned that you are supposed to defer to the other person to make choices for you because it's respectful? It's just, cultural. It's the way that it is. So those are two different things. And if it's a cultural dynamic thing that you were supposed to defer, you want to process with your therapist different family dynamics that are possible, right? The other thing is, if it is you feel like you don't deserve to make decisions, I would challenge you to reflect on the decisions that because you've had to make some decisions as a business person, right? Reflect on the decisions that you have made and the outcome was great, right? There's nothing wrong with like kind of tapping into other people to get their best self and their resources to help you, but there has to be some decision that you made for sure, and start to build trust in yourself. Start making small decisions for yourself. Now, what I do have couples do, because sometimes they have different ideas around what values they should have, or they want to have different ideas than what their family had, right? And so this is the opportunity for you to create literally a designer relationship for yourself. I have my couples go into 4 quadrants, and you take these 4 sections and you write down what your values are around this, your values in a relationship. Do it separately, then come together. The first one would be finances. What are your values around finances? The next one would be intimacy. So that means like how often you're intimate, what kind of friendships you're allowed to have, that kind of thing. The next one would be health. So that means what are your values around anything health related? Or do we always eat together? Do we eat healthy? Do we work out together? Do we say, no, we're not working out? That's ridiculous, right? If you were to get older and sick, do I take care of you? Or do we have an aid? Whatever health things, you put that there. And the last one is spirituality. So you do those 4 sections with your partner to figure out what your values are around that. And the two of you can come together to cultivate and create your own type of relationship that doesn't have to be your familial, values and expectations. Okay. All right. So, man, these are really good ones, and I can't answer the ball. I'm going to take one more question, and then I'll move to the next one because these are good. All right. How do I not let my childhood trauma from my abusive father affect my relationship with my boyfriend? Oh, so pretty much what I just now said, it's about identifying, which I love the fact that you have enough insight to understand that there's an issue and where it comes from, right? So once we're able to identify where it came from, we can start to negate its validity. So if it's not just your father, you're not just saying, well, my father was kind of harsh, you're identifying him as an abusive father, which you know is an unhealthy dynamic. And once I can understand that this is unhealthy and this person was operating from an unhealthy place, I can remember all the things he told me and I can disregard them because they came from a poor source. I'm not sure what happened to your father that would put him in this space that he was showing up in the world this way, but hurt people, right? But we can't trust what they say because it's coming from a space of pain. Okay. I agree. Good question. Okay. How much is too much to ask of your partner or too much to rely on them? At what point are you depending on them and fulfilling personal areas of improvement? So this one is a little bit difficult too, because I don't know how much you have been depending on them, but you don't want your partner to be like the full source of your happiness. You want them to be on the journey with you, right? So if I have a journey for health, if I have a journey for spiritual fulfillment, whatever it is, I always let my partner know what that is, so that at a minimum, he can do things that will not block me on my journey. He doesn't have to go to yoga with me. He doesn't have to go to the gym with me and work out, 7 days a week. He doesn't have to do the challenge with me, right? But he has to help create a space for me that doesn't prevent me from reaching my goals, because that's what a partner does. Okay? I'm not ignoring anyone's questions specifically. I'm just pulling them out. I don't want anyone to feel like that. So I could not answer any of the questions so no one feels like they're being ignored. Key number 4 is balance authenticity. So balance authenticity, there is the concept around the more that you are showing up balanced in your relationships, the more the people in your relationships will also feel like they can be authentic, right? So the more you feel like it's okay for you to be yourself and it's okay for everyone with you to be themselves, they're more likely to feel at ease. They're more likely to feel connected to you. So there is actually an assessment called the AIRS assessment. So it's authenticity in relationship scale. Okay, so it's about 24, 25 questions. It is research-based and it tells you where you are on the scale. But I actually have a different version of it, which is also research-based. It's in a abridged version. So there's 9 questions. So we're gonna go over the 9 questions. We're going to answer it, and I'm going to tell you where you are on the scale. But I want you to understand that wherever you are, it's a scale that moves, right? So it's nothing that is permanent. You're not stuck anywhere, but we have to know better so we can do better, right? Just being aware where you are in your relationship style, okay? I sometimes get jealous of my partner. Does this have anything to do with my low self-esteem? It absolutely could be. If we feel like someone, jealousy, or how can I say envy, right, is looking at someone who potentially, one, has something that we don't have, or they have the potential to take away something that we want. Okay. So it could, if you don't feel secure, right, in who you are, like, so say if I'm with my partner and every waitress that comes up winks at him and, slips, their number to him or anything like that, if I feel like there's a chance that they could remove this person from my relationship, that I could lose the significant part of my life, then feelings of jealousy can come up. And that's different than feelings of irritation or feeling disrespected. Like, are you really winking at my boyfriend in front of me? That's different. But jealousy is when you are afraid of loss. Okay. And yes, and that has to do with your self-esteem. If you feel like, well, I'm not going to be enough to keep this person here, so I am now jealous. All right. All right. So I have the 9 questions. I'm going to read the questions and I'm going to give you basically how you're going to scale the questions. So let me grab that for you now so we do it the right way. So every question is on a scale from 0 to 5. So 0 being disagree and 5 being strongly agree. So you're going to rate everything from 0 to 5. Okay. And when we get done, we'll go ahead and I'll add up all of them for you, or I'll tell you how to add them up. Okay. So question number 1, I always hide my true thoughts for fear of others' disapproval. So 0 through 5, 0 being disagree, 5 being strongly agree. Question number 2, I usually try to cater to others. Question number 3. I do not dare tell others the truth due to caring for their feelings. Question number 4. I am fully aware of when to insist on myself and when to compromise. Question number 5. I always find ways to reconcile my needs and other people's requirements. Question number 6. I would rather give up the real me's missing, nor make others hard to accept. So I'm not going to give up who I am, and I'm not going to tell you that you have to be something different than you are, okay? Question number 7. I usually tell the truth without concern about how others will think of me. Question number 8. I just speak my mind without taking care of others' feelings. Question number 9. I always offend people by speaking frankly. Okay. Perfect. Did I see a 1? Oh, it's 105. Got it. Perfect. Okay. So this is what, yeah, I knew 6 would be, it does that every time. So I would never give up me, nor make others to accept. So I'm not going to give up who I am, and I'm not going to tell you that you have to give up who you are. Okay. So we're going to put this in 3 categories. So you should have 3 numbers. So question 1 through 3, I want you to add those numbers together that you had. Question 0 being disagree, 5 being strongly agree. Sorry. Questions 4 through 6, add that together. And then questions 7 through 9, add that together. So you should end up with 3 numbers. See if anybody has it yet. Yes, exactly like AX has it. No audio for you guys? Please explain again. Okay, so you're going to take what you added together for questions 1 through 3. Oh, sorry, take those 3 numbers, add them together. For questions 4 through 6, take those 3 numbers, add them together. For questions 7 through 9, take those 3 numbers and add them together. And so you should come up with 3 different numbers. Can anybody else not hear me or see me? Okay. So refresh. Okay. All right. So 11, 11, 12. Had to refresh. Okay. Can't see but can hear you. This is so interesting today. All right. 5, 2, 0. Woo! Got a 0 there. Okay. 13, 0, 0. Got it. All right, I'm going to tell you what the results are with the number you have. And what we're concentrating on is the highest number. If a number is equal to the middle number, that means you're close to where you want to be. You just have a little bit more work to do. But we're looking at the highest number. Please, how do we do them again? All right, let's see. I'm going to respond directly to you. So look at what I just dropped in there for you, okay? In blocks of 3, yeah. All right. So the results, if your highest number was the first number, then you have, what is it? Other, now I can't see it. Yeah, other distorted authenticity. If your highest number was a second number, you have balanced authenticity, okay? So if the highest number was the last number, right now you have egocentric authenticity, okay? So I'm going to tell you what that means. So other distorted authenticity is basically a people pleaser, somebody who really desires making sure that everybody else around them is happy, is pleased, right? Balanced authenticity is you're in a space where you are able to allow others to be who they are. You're good with who they are. It doesn't make you feel threatened. And you also show up as your authentic self, right? What if the top are if the middle and the top are the same, it just means you have a little bit more work in terms of moving away from people pleasing, but you are close to being balanced, okay? Egocentric authenticity means that you do not worry about other people's feelings. You're going to say what you need to say. You got to get it out, and that's the end of that. Other disorder. Yep. So this may resonate for a lot of you guys. So this is interesting. Anyone who has the first one and the last one being high, how many people have the first one and the last one being the same number? First and last were equal for me. Okay. You all right. So let me go ahead and explain to you what happens there. So you're a people pleaser, probably the majority of the time. You know, you're the person who's always planning something for someone's birthday. You're planning the trips. You know, your partner, your friend is like, oh, let's go to dinner. Where do you want to go to dinner? I don't know, wherever you want to go, wherever your favorite place is. Yeah, but I want to know what you're thinking. I can do almost anything. I'm perfectly fine. You let me know what you want. So you actually derive joy from making other people's lives easier. And so one day it gets to your birthday. And I'm using this example because birthday is like serious to me. I'm a birthday person. You get to your birthday and your partner says to you the day before your birthday, hey, babe, tell me 5 things you might want for your birthday. And you're like, you're just planning my birthday the day before my birthday. And you are thinking about all the things that you have done, that you've sacrificed, you've given all of yourself to this person in this relationship, and they're giving almost nothing, and you completely lose it. You want to be hurt on it. You're pissed off. You don't care how they feel about it. This was a sore spot for you, and you explode. And then you come back down, you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have been so mean. Oh my gosh. And you feel guilty, you feel bad. And then you go back to people pleasing to kind of make up for that explosion. But the cycle goes on and on because really you didn't feel heard. You don't feel heard. You don't feel respected, but you're able to manage it most of the time. And then sometimes you're just not. Okay. So that's generally what happens with somebody who has these 2 numbers, the first and the last number being the same. Is the PowerPoint somewhere? There is nowhere for the PowerPoint to be downloaded. However, yeah, you will get a recording of this and it'll be available to you for 7 days. What if my first and last are equal, but the middle was higher? That means that you are currently at a balanced authenticity, right? So if that's the highest number, you're balanced, right? So if you are not where you want to be, guys, like I said, it is a scale. So the more that you are allowing yourself to show up as true in a lot of these situations, and you are unafraid or being run by the anxiety of all the bad that could happen, the more you allow yourself to do that, the more that you will be balanced enough so that your relationship will continue to cultivate that energy. Because if I'm balanced and then my partner comes in and they feel safe and they continue to be balanced, we kind of bounce off of each other's energy to make our space balanced, okay? And what about the first one being super high? So whatever your highest number is where you're at, right? So if your first number was the highest, then you are in other distorted authenticity, which is basically around people pleaser. All right. I feel like I'm answering the same. Okay. If the any 2 numbers are the same, right? And they're the same as the middle number, it means you're close to balance, but you need to work on one or the other area. So if your high number is in other distorted authenticity and balanced authenticity, you need to do a little bit more work of pulling away from people pleasing, right? So that you can be on the scale for balanced. Okay. All right. And let me move to key number 5. So key number 4, again, was balance authenticity. And again, this is the AIRS scale. So authenticity in relationship scale, right? So this is something you guys, you're going to have the recording. If you want to do a screenshot of it, you can take this assessment again to see if, as you're continuing to grow in your therapy and things that you're doing for yourself, if you are moving on this scale. Okay. So key number 5. Okay, if you're still discovering who you are, spend time figuring out what you like and what you don't like. So if we went down the whole row of the journey for us, right? So number 1, we were looking at becoming aware of our narrative and what's feeding our narrative. So we're starting to work on combating what somebody else told us as truth and then re-identifying for ourselves what is our true identity, right? We're starting to work on being able to be more vulnerable with people. So people who want to love exactly who you are. So you're challenging yourself to show up more authentic, right? You're challenging yourself to use this new identity and this new narrative of self to integrate into your relationships. We're working on not making assumptions anymore that the old story is going to come back and be true, or the way that people treated us before is going to be true. And then we're working on being balanced and accepting others, right? So that we can just cultivate a space where we are also feeling accepted, even when we were coming from a space of not even accepting ourselves. So you have to cultivate that kind of energy. So when we're talking about this last key and figuring out what you like and you don't like, we didn't really talk about what you like. We were just talking about who you are, right? What's acceptable to you. So now you get to kind of have a little bit more fun when you're working with your therapist. What is it you like? What makes you happy, right? You're not in survival mode anymore when you move through these steps. You're in thrive mode. So what are the things that you were preventing yourself from doing that you told yourself or someone told you you could not have or you could not do? What are the things in life that are yummy to you, right? So utilize this time and this new awareness to get really close with the little girl, the little boy, who you are. Live that up. A lot of us were, if we were coming from spaces of trauma and abuse, we may have been parentified, or we may have lost our childhood, basically, right? Where we had to be an adult too soon. It's time to be able to tap back into that and recognize your favorite ice cream, right? So let me see. If your true self tends to be egocentric authenticity, how do you show up as your true self, but also make sure that you aren't so focused on yourself? That's not anyone's true self. So let me explain. That's like saying angry is someone's true self, or something maladaptive is not your true self. It is adaptive, right? It was for a reason. So the reason that we may be on that part of the scale is because you could be living in a life where people have consistently shut you down, didn't want to hear you. So you cultivated a coping skill to make people hear you by being like, nope, I'm speaking, right? And that's pretty much how it is. Like, I'm going to be seen, I'm going to be heard. I have to do this for me. I don't care how you feel, because in the past where I have considered everybody else's feelings, I lost, I got hurt, right? So that's not your true self. That is your scared self. Your scared self is what fuels either the egocentric or the other distorted authenticity. Balanced authenticity is where you are, right? So I would challenge you that that's not your true self, and you want to identify, why is it that I feel like I have to go to egocentric? And once you're able to kind of tear down that narrative as to basically a space of feeling unsafe, then you can more easily show up as balanced. Okay. How to stop people pleasing. I think a couple of people asked that. People pleasing is also for the purpose of, when we say people pleasing, that's also maladaptive. Being kind and loving to people is not the same. A lot of us love serving others, right? It's a career we'll get into. It's the service that we get into, whatever. But people pleasing is with the motivation of, I need you to love me, so I have to do all these things, right? So the way that you stop people pleasing in that way is by you understanding that your value is innate. Your value is already there, and kind of having your therapist give you some tools and practices to consistently remind yourself that I'm valuable, whether I get up this morning and I send a good morning text to you and I clean things for you, or if I cook for you, I still have value no matter what. So this is just challenging your identity of your value. Okay. And so I disagree with this. Seeing your partner's pleasure is equally hot. Oh, I'm not sure. What do you disagree with? Because I think I just said that. Currently applying to a new job and feel overwhelmed that I'm not good enough, even though I have the qualifications, and it keeps me from applying for the jobs. I really want to ask for the salary I probably deserve, probably related to dynamic with previous bosses, and I get stuck feeling I can't make a change in my life. Do you have any advice on how to overcome this fear? So it almost sounds like imposter syndrome, like you're not supposed to be there. There's actually a study around the fact that women are more likely to not apply for things and put in their resume for something that they're a little bit qualified for, and men. And I wish we could take a page out of their book, and this isn't everybody, but the percentage of men is much higher who will go ahead and slap down their resume and be like, I could do this job. No, I've never done it before, but I could do it. Right? So this is the imposter syndrome. So I would say I would look up some things specifically around imposter syndrome. In terms of books, there's specific books around imposter syndrome that will help you a lot get out of your head about how you're not good enough, right? If your first number is high, CR1, where I don't, no me entiendo. Where are you guys? Are we not following along? If the highest number is 1, is the first one, then at this point on the scale, you are at egocentric, not sorry, other distorted authenticity, which is basically people pleaser. Okay, yeah, someone answered. Thank you. All right. So, quick story. This is Zoe. For all intents and purposes, she's like my granddaughter. And when Zoe was born, there were not any babies in the family for at least like 12, 14 years. So it was a long time since everyone had a baby and a lot of people in the family. And so when she was born, you know, everyone wanted to play with her and talk to her. And then the pooping started, right? Like that's normal. And then the eating started, all the things that the baby needs. So when Zoe would make a noise, people would run over to her and be like, do you need me to change your diaper? I literally watched 3 people change her diaper. People would be like, are you hungry? Do you want me to entertain you? Should I read to you? Maybe we should just walk around all day with you, right? Whatever she needed. And Zoe could not give you anything but a giggle and gas, right? Like she just existed. What we forget is that, you know, most of the time, there are abusive situations, but most of the time when a baby is born, there is a village, there is someone who is making sure the baby is alive and okay and happy, whatever happy looks like for a baby, right? But we forget that we were all these babies, that we were born and someone thought you have to be taken care of. You have to be seen. You have to be heard. You have to be tended to because your value is infinite and it is innate. It cannot be taken away. Just because we go along in our stories and we have trauma and we have people who hurt us because they are hurt, just because we have these things going on with them does not mean that it actually stripped away any values from us. Whatever our experiences have been, things that we have had to do to survive, wrong decisions that we made for our lives, maybe even other people that we've hurt, our innate value does not change. We forget these things and we act out of a space of a lie that we're not valuable and we have to do extra to get back that value. It doesn't ever go away. Okay? Okay. I'm going to look at this last question and then let you guys go. My heart has been broken by everyone. Oh, quickly, if you guys haven't seen the link above, you can check that out for additional resources. My heart has been broken by everyone I have ever loved, and now I struggle to see my own self-worth because I feel I am too broken to be worth anyone's time. How can you begin to rebuild your self-worth after heartbreak? How do you embrace being enough and worthy of love when you can't see it for yourself? Very good question, and something that I know a lot of people can relate to, especially after long relationships, after extreme breakups, or people just disappearing from your lives, right? This is going to take a lot of work with really reestablishing a tribe for you. You have to check in with other people. I'm not certain, when you say everyone you've ever loved, does that mean all of your family has gone away? Every romantic relationship has gone away? All of your friends have gone away? So there's a couple things, because I have to keep it real. There's a couple things to consider here. Are people going away because you have some maladaptive thing that is pushing people away? Is there a wall that goes up, right? So you want to dig in deeper with your therapist. If there's something that is showing up in you that doesn't make you broken, it makes you very human, right? Are you doing a protective, self-sabotaging thing that is actually keeping your relationships from deepening? And so if you can figure out what you can control with that, right, you have a better chance of your relationships being different because people do want to connect with other people. The other thing is the people that you're talking about. Sometimes someone will say this to me and they've had 100 relationships, or they've had 2, and they'll say everyone I've ever loved has gone away. Maybe those 2 people that you have loved, they themselves were not healthy, so they could not show you a healthy love. So there's so many aspects of this thing to actually look at with your therapist and kind of negate some of the things that you're identifying for yourself, right? So usually when somebody rejects us, the first thing we think is, it's me, what did I do? And we're not thinking about the person who rejected us and what pain they were going through, how they weren't ready for a relationship, how they were struggling with addiction, how their mother left them, you know, as they were a child and they don't know how to connect to someone, or intimacy scares them. We don't look at all that stuff, right? So you have to do a lot of history work in order for you to recognize that this is not your whole self being broken, being rejected. There's so much more to you, but right now in the midst of pain, this is going to be your hyper focus, and it's going to be a while because you're grieving, right? So I don't want to act like it's quick, fast, and hurry. Like, how come you don't see yourself better yet, right? It takes a minute. So what I do want you to do is give yourself compassion and grace while you're moving through this with your therapist. But please ask your therapist this specific question, because they will have tools for every session to be basically another intervention closer to your re-identifying your lovable self. Okay. All right, guys. So that is what I have for you today. Thank you for those of you who responded to people, because, of course, I couldn't respond to everything. I apologize for anyone's question that I was not able to answer. Again, if you would like me to answer your question, I will answer questions that I received today and next week on the live. You can either email me, joy@glowyourgoddess.com, or you can direct message me on Instagram. Okay? All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your week and have a great weekend. Oh, not accepted. I'm sorry. Dang. Bye, guys.